Welcome to Frostbitten Tales. Some towns wear their history like a badge of honor. Others bury it deep. Ashford used to be quiet, safe. Then people started to vanish. No witnesses, no bodies. This is the Shadows in Ashford. I'm Sheriff Jacob Mercer, and I've worn this badge for 15 years, and I thought I'd seen the worst a man could see. Drunk fights gone bad, suicides in cold barns. Once, a husband who shot his wife over a pie she'd burned. But what's been happening in Ashford these past 6 months, no man should have to see. It started small. Or maybe I just didn't see the pattern yet. A teacher, Rebecca Hensley, didn't show up for class one Monday. No calls, no note. Her front door was locked from the inside, dinner still on the stove. The only thing missing was her. 2 weeks later, Billy Harper, age 12, never came home from the library. We only found his bike in an alleyway, bent to hell. Then old Martha vanished from her rocking chair on the front porch. Her knitting needles were the only things found laying at the bottom of her porch steps. Then the numbers climbed. Kids, teachers, the elderly, all gone without a trace. I filed reports with the county. The county sent them to the state. The state called in the FBI. "We're treating this as a serial abduction case, Sheriff," said Agent Carter. I was baffled. Abduction? You've seen the numbers. 37 missing in 6 months. Whoever's doing this ain't keeping them alive. We've had stranger cases. You just keep doing your patrols. If anything moves in the woods, let us know, he stated. The woods. It's always the woods. Ashford is cradled by them. Black pine and oak, thick enough to swallow the sunlight by noon. Carter and the rest of the agents left a week later with nothing but their own shadows to keep them company. Some good they were. Then it was the night he came. It was a little past midnight when I first saw him. I was parked outside Miller's gas station, sipping lukewarm coffee, when something came tearing across Main Street. A shadow, long-limbed, fast. Not an animal, and too fast for any man. And right behind it, a wild-eyed old man, maybe in his 60s, clutching a hunting crossbow. His clothes were torn, his face pale and streaked with sweat, and he was shouting like a preacher on Judgment Day. "Get back here, you old whore!" I hit the lights and siren. He didn't stop. The shadow vanished into the tree line. The old man followed, but I cut him off with the cruiser, slamming the door shut behind me. "Hands where I can see them. Drop the weapon." He hesitated. His eyes never left the woods as he slowly lowered the crossbow. I cuffed him and sat him in the back of the cruiser. During the ride back to the station, he didn't make a fuss, didn't try to explain himself, just stared out the window. But when he did speak, what he said sent shivers down my spine. "You can't stop them, Sheriff." Back at the station, I sat him down. He looked at me with eyes like burnt coals. Not angry, not scared, just tired. "Start talking," I barked. "Name's Elias Crow, and your town, Sheriff. Your town is dying." "We've had disappearances. That's nothing new in the world," I said. Elias glared at me. "Not disappearances. Feedings. You've got a nest here. 3 of them. 2 females, 1 male. They're family. Been moving across the country for near 50 years. I've been chasing them since I was 12 years old." 50 years? That'd make them older than you can count, boy. I watched them tear my mama open like a sack of grain. Watched them pull my little sister's head clean off. My pa shot one through the head. Did nothing. That's when I learned what they are. I leaned back in my chair. I chuckled a little. "Wait, you're trying to tell me you've been hunting vampires?" He didn't smile. "And I'm telling you they're here now. Your folks that went missing? You'll find what's left of them in the ground somewhere. Bones like chalk, marrow sucked clean. I'm guessing they've taken a liking to your town due to how isolated and surrounded by woods it is. Makes it easier for them to hunt and hide bodies." I was ready to call him a lunatic, until the smell hit. A sour, metallic stench that crept through the vents of the station. Elias stiffened. "That's them. They're close. Quick, take these cuffs off and give me back my bow." Ignoring his command, I grabbed my sidearm and flashlight, stepping into the alley. That's when I saw her, a woman, or what looked like one, standing at the far end. Tall, with skin pale as candle wax and hair hanging wet down her back. Her eyes gleamed yellow in my beam. She smiled, showing teeth like an animal's, not sharp like in the movies, but long and uneven, like they'd grown in hungry. She moved in a blur. 1 second, she was 20 feet away. The next, she was at my side, cold hands gripping my throat. Elias's bolt caught her in the shoulder. She shrieked, a sound like metal screaming, and leaped straight up onto the roof. Gone. I didn't question how Elias got out of his cuffs because I was glad he did. As I was down on one knee, coughing and rubbing my throat, trying to ease the cold vice grip sensation left from that thing. Elias insisted we follow, but I was still in shock. With a shaky voice I said, "This can't be real." "You still refuse to accept it even when one of them literally had you in their clutches." Elias let out a sigh. "Never mind. It's best we don't pursue. Their guard will be up." He extended a hand and helped me on my feet. "Do you have a map of the town? It'll help us pinpoint a general area of where they could be hiding," Elias said. "Are you crazy?" I said. "We should be calling the FBI back in." "Foolish boy. Now that they know we know they're here. If a group of outside forces show up, they'll definitely move on and ravage the next town. And besides, do you think anyone would believe you anyways?" he said with a cheeky smirk. After hours of going back and forth, foolishly I let Elias convince me only him and myself was enough to get the job done. I even let him talk me into keeping it a secret from the other deputies. It took us a while to find it. Days of chasing whispers and half-trails through town. Every clue we picked up seemed to vanish before we could pin it down. A scent that stopped cold in the middle of the road, drag marks in the dirt that ended without reason, and houses where the door was locked from the inside, but people were gone. Elias was certain they were hiding close. "They don't go far to feed," he told me. "Too much risk of being seen. Wouldn't it make it easier for them to just kill the both of us off first, since we're the only ones in town that know about them?" Elias paused for a second. "Well, it would. But this is a game to them. Besides hunting and feeding, on rare occasion when people actually hunt them, must bring some excitement to them. A curse of living for so long, longer than any man is supposed to. Or they're just confident they can take out an old man and a sheriff that's still wet behind the ears anytime they want," he said with a grin spreading across his face. "We checked cellars, storm drains, even the abandoned railway tunnels, but each time we came up empty. Until that day. It was the stink that found us first, thick, wet, and heavy in the air, like meat left to rot in summer heat. We followed it past the edge of town, into a stretch of woods I'd only ever ridden by. The sun was hidden behind clouds, and the wind made the trees sway and groan as if they didn't want us there. That's when Elias stopped dead. He was staring at an old feed barn, half collapsed, its roof caved in on one side. The place looked abandoned decades ago, but the smell was pouring out from inside like a living thing. We approached slow, boots crunching on frost, and Elias eased the warped doors open. The little sunlight breaching the clouds spilled in and froze me where I stood. Piles of corpses, not fresh, not cleaned, just heaps of half-rotten flesh, gnawed bones, and skin like parchment, some missing heads, some missing everything below the ribs, as if they'd been torn apart for what was inside. The stink was so thick I thought I'd choke on it. In one pile I saw Rebecca's blue dress, tangled and half buried in a mess of ribs and spine. Dear God. Elias didn't flinch. His eyes swept the carnage like he'd seen worse before. "God's got nothing to do with this, boy. Load your gun with these." He handed me shells filled with a strange black grit that smelled of burnt wood and something sweetly foul. "What's in them?" "Charred bone, ash, and hawthorn. Only thing that'll kill 'em dead, if you hit the heart." "How could our department and the FBI overlook this place?" I said. "Sheriff, I can guarantee you these bodies probably weren't here then. As you can see, some of them are covered in red dirt that's not in this area, which lets me know they had some of these bodies buried elsewhere." We stayed in that barn until the sun began to bleed low through the cracks in the boards. The air inside was thick with the smell of rot, the silence so deep I could hear my own heartbeat. That's when Elias finally spoke, his voice low, like the corpses might hear him. "They hunt together," he said. "3 of them. Always. They'll feed, then vanish. But this place," he gestured to the piles, "this is their larder, and they'll come back before the night's out." I tried to picture it. 3 of them, including the one that attacked me, walking through those doors, hungry. My stomach turned. Elias opened his satchel and started laying out weapons on the dirt floor. 2 shotguns, a wicked-looking hatchet, a pouch of the black ashen shells he'd given me. "So we hit them here? In the open? This is as good as it gets. We let them come to us, let their guard down while they feed. But once they know we're here, it'll be a fight you won't walk away from unless you make every shot count." He glanced toward the barn's wide doors, where the light was thinning fast. Outside, the horizon was dipping into that deep orange that meant night wasn't far. "They'll be faster than you, stronger, meaner, and they'll see better in the dark than you ever will. That's why we've got daylight left, once it's gone." He paused, loading shells with steady hands, then looked me dead in the eye. "Pray." That night, we heard them before we saw them. Light footsteps, almost delicate, padding across the frozen dirt outside. Then the slow, aching creak of the barn doors being pushed open. 3 shapes stepped into the lantern glow. The man was broad, shoulders like an ox, his face a ruin of scars, and his eyes, pale yellow, catching the light like a wolf's. The younger woman's dress was torn, her hair still hanging wet down her back, and even in the dim I saw the glisten on her chin. It was blood. And then the older one stepped forward. The matriarch. Her skin was pulled so tight over her skull it looked ready to split, cheekbones sharp as knives. She smiled, lips peeling back to reveal blackened gums and teeth like shards of glass. None of them spoke. They just looked at us, like wolves staring at sheep that hadn't figured out they were in the wrong pasture. What happened next? I can still hear it in my dreams. Gunfire ripped the silence apart. Screams, theirs and ours, tangled in the dark. Elias moved like a man half his age, driving a hawthorn stake through the younger one's chest with a sound like splitting green wood. She screamed, body thrashing in jerks before collapsing into a cloud of black ash that stank of burnt meat and grave dirt. Enraged, the man lunged for me, his speed unnatural, closing the distance in less than a heartbeat. His breath was cold on my face when I pulled the trigger. The buckshot tore through his mouth, blowing the back of his head into a spray of thick tar-like blood that hissed where it hit the lantern light. Then the matriarch was on Elias. One moment he was reloading, the next she was holding him, her nails sunk into his chest, her mouth at his throat. She bit deep, tearing out a chunk of him with a wet rip that made my stomach turn. Her breath hit me before her eyes did, the smell of every rotting corpse in that barn pressed into my lungs. I shoved the barrel into her chest and pulled the trigger. She didn't fall. She laughed, a dry, rasping cackle, black gums peeling wider. And then the fire took her. The hawthorn and ash caught, crawling over her skin like living flame. She shrieked, skin blistering and curling away from bone. She flew from one side of the barn to the other, still shrieking, igniting whatever she came in contact with in flames. And in moments later, there was nothing left of her but a scorched patch on the dirt floor. Even the flames were unnatural. The barn was quickly being engulfed. I ran to Elias, but he was dead, laying there, eyes closed, with a look of relief on his face. I had to leave his body there in order to escape. By the time the others arrived, the barn was nothing but a blackened skeleton against the night sky. Flames still hissed in the rafters, smoke curling into the stars. No bodies, no proof. Just me, bleeding, smoke-stained and half-mad from what I'd seen. They asked what happened. I told them. They wrote it down, nodded like they were humoring a drunk, then crossed out half before the ink was dry. Elias became an unidentified transient. I became the sheriff who panicked and set fire to county property. After months passed and the disappearances stopped, people began to carry on with life as if the disappearances never happened. I was demoted from sheriff, but I'm perfectly fine with that. I mostly do paperwork now, but in my desk, at the very back of the bottom drawer, I keep shells he gave me, the charred bone, the ash, the hawthorn. Some nights I take one out, roll it between my fingers, and smell the faint smoke still clinging to the brass, because I know what I saw. I know what we fought. And sometimes, on the edge of town, I think I see someone, just for a moment, standing between the trees, watching. I think one of them got away. You've been listening to Frostbitten Tales. The fire in Ashford left nothing but ashes and unanswered questions. That was closed. The town moved on, but we know the truth. So if you ever hear footsteps behind you on an empty road, don't look back. It might already be too late. If you enjoyed tonight's story, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more journeys into the dark corners of the world. Where the shadows are thick, the nights are long, and monsters are always hungry.